Four B's. Be bold, be brave, be brief, be bold, be bold, be brief, be brilliant, be gone. Okay, four B's. Be bold, be brief, be brilliant, be gone. So I won't be up here long before you. I told my wife I think I can do it in about 30 minutes. 30 minutes or shorter. Okay, so we're going to talk about Solomon's up here. Do you know of anybody, do anybody know Warren Buffett? Warren Buffett is a renowned investor. He's a billionaire. He may be the richest person in America right now. I think it goes back and forth with him and another person. But at one time it says, do you know someone paid $2.7 million to have lunch with Warren Buffett? Okay, only if we can have advice from someone like that that's worth that much just to have lunch with, we're giving them $2.7 million just to have lunch. My thought is, oh, but we can. Okay, we have Solomon. Solomon, the Bible tells us he was the wealthiest, the wisest man on earth. And I think it goes here and it tells me, it says he was worth over $2 trillion if it's adjusted for inflation. Okay, we're going to come back to that a little bit later on. But here's Solomon is the wisest man in the earth and the wealthiest man in the earth. Okay, and we're going to talk about him. Now, there were some things he did bad also. Okay, I'm not going to go that direction today, but I want to talk about, here's a man that's the wisest man. In a dream, he spoke to God, and he asked, God asked him what he wanted, and he said he wanted wisdom. He didn't want, certain other things, and, the story goes a different way, but he, more than anything else, he wanted wisdom because he wanted to, when he became king, he wanted to be able to understand people, to make, to help make decisions on people, so he wanted wisdom, okay? This King Solomon, 5 lessons, only 5, not that many. 5 lessons from King Solomon. Okay, let me give you a history and a background about Solomon first. Okay, and I'll read this first, and I'll go up there. It says, King Solomon had all the fame and fortune that any man could want. He was the world's wisest and wealthiest king, and yet, tragically, he threw it all away. Rather than remaining true to the living God, his heart was led astray by the treasures of wealth, the pleasures of sex, and the power of an earthly kingdom. In witnessing Solomon's moral triumphs and sinful failure, therefore we learn how to live more wisely. By the grace of God, we may avoid a tragic downfall of our own and learn how to use money for the power and glory of God. Okay, in studying the life of Solomon, we see both the true greatness and the tragic failure of our own humanity, okay? When I talk about Solomon here, he was the 10th son of King David. And when you start talking about King David, we talked about King David as being a man after God's own heart. And I wrote some notes here. It talks about David, maybe the greatest of all the kings. Arguably, okay? He was heroic. He had feats, the heroic feats in battle. He killed a lion. He killed a bear. He defended his father's flock and herd. He slew a giant. He conquered kingdom. So when you think about a lineage, DNA like that, okay, you're thinking, okay, he's the 10th son, so there must be some DNA, must be something special about this guy also. So that was David, but he was the 10th son of David. Usually the older son would get the lineage next, but this, in the case, just like David, when they were saying, no, there was another one, there's another one, there's another one, the one out in the field, go get him. Okay, this was the 10th son. He wasn't the oldest, okay? He was king of Israel. Just like David, he took over the king of Israel. He was the world's wisest and wealthiest king. He had over 700 wives and 300 concubines. You're thinking, wow, that's a lot. For a wise man to be this wise, how did he have this many wives and this many concubines? And when you look at the word concubine, it means, I guess you can almost say it's like a girlfriend that stays with him, but not his wife. Okay, if that makes sense to you, because back in those days, if there were slaves and stuff back then, they couldn't marry kings and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a girlfriend or whatever that stayed with him, but couldn't be his wife. Okay, so that's a concubine. He was worth over billions, trillions in today's money. He built the first temple of Jerusalem. David wanted to build the temple, however, because of the Bathsheba situation, he wasn't able to do it. So he built the first temple of Jerusalem. He was reverent for his wisdom. Okay, when you think about his wisdom. He told stories. There was a story, one of the most famous with Solomon is, I want to say there was 2 women, and picture this in your mind. okay, in a hospital room. Back then, they didn't have hospital, so you got to kind of put it in your mind. Two women has a baby, okay, small baby, and one of the babies is dead, okay? So the woman who has the dead baby, when this woman who had the live baby, when she was asleep, she got up and she changed the baby around, okay? So she now has the live baby, and the other woman who had the live baby now has a dead baby. So they had to take this to King Solomon and ask him, how would you handle this? And this is when he mentioned, about, let's cut the baby in half. And you're thinking, cutting the baby in half. And this one woman who had the dead baby said that was fine with her. But the one who had the live baby said, no way, you can give it to that woman. So just by knowing the wisdom and the knowledge, that's some of the things he did by telling stories. Okay, he wrote Proverbs, Ecclesiastic, and the Song of Solomon. Okay? First scripture I'm going to go to is 1 King. And this is when he was being anointed as a king. It says 1 King chapter 1, verses 33 and 34. And the king said to them, take with you the servants of your Lord, and have Solomon my son ride on my own mule, and bring him down to Gihon, and let Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet there anoint him king over Israel. Then blow the trumpet and say, long live King Solomon. And that was the thing they said. Okay, even David was going to die, but there was still something they said, that another person, another in the bloodline was going to take over, and the nation was still going to be there. So that was the king they said. And I told my wife, I said, I was going to talk a little bit about the mule here. Okay, back then, and I wrote some notes here, back then it says it was David's personal mule, royal mule, kingship, riding a mule or donkey was an ancient symbol of royal office, a royal carriage. It was almost like Air Force One. When you see the president in Air Force One, back then the donkey was the same symbolic. A donkey or a mule, that was symbolic of then. So that was going on with the mule. Okay, all right. Strategy number one, okay, says money does not satisfy. Okay, and I talk a lot about offering and tithes and offering. Okay, money, when we go to Ecclesiastic 5, verse 10. Whoever loves money never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This tool is too meaningless. Okay, when you have money, or when you make love your money, the Bible says a fool and his money will soon depart from each other. If you make love your money, okay, not money is the root of all evil, but the love of money. When you make it to love it, okay, you never have enough. You have it, but I can have more. Okay, what can I do to get more? What can I sell? What can I buy? What can I purchase? So when you have money, and your love is money, okay, you're never satisfied. You're always wanting more. I know there was a song back in the days, I don't know if some of you guys remember it. I think it was actually talking about Tiger Woods, when Tiger Woods was really great at the time. It said, more money, more problems. More money, who's trying to take it? Who's trying to get it? Where am I going to keep it? Is somebody taking it from me? But the more money, the more problems, okay? Okay, Matthew 6:33 says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given unto thee as well. Okay, even if you have money, it tells us first to seek God first. Okay, seek the kingdom first, and all these other things will be added unto you. But first, it has to be God. Okay, in order to be satisfied, you got to seek him first. Matthew 7:24 says, build your house on the rock, and you'll be able to weather any storm. I know my wife was talking about that a little bit earlier, the rock, the solid foundation. And there's a story in the Bible talks about when you build, you want a solid foundation. Okay, you want to, as the storm comes and pushes, if your house is built in the sand, it's going to push it away, but you want to have a firm foundation. Same thing when you have money, when you have an account, you want to start with God, and you want to start with a foundation there, a rock, solid rock. Philippians 4:6-7, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and mind in Jesus Christ. So the first thing is tell you, if you do have money, if you are coming in with money, or you inheriting money, however the case may be, first of all, go to God. Go to God with prayer. Father, what do you want me to do with this? How do you want me to deal with it? Because it can be taken away, okay? So you want to make sure So you want. It says satisfaction only comes from God. It doesn't come from getting married, a bigger house, $1 million in the bank, or being retired. What is interesting is that when we take the focus off getting more money and more things, they seem to start appealing. Okay, that's when it talks about seek ye first, okay? It's okay, then I asked the question, I said, but how do you apply biblical money principle? Okay, first thing is prayer, we just talked about, okay? Ask him, what does it look like day-to-day life? And be honest with him about your current needs and your biggest worries. Okay, from imaginable place and the most stressful situation. And then we talk about what we do with it. We're promised an imaginable peace even in the most stressful situation, which is found in Philippians. Okay, but that's the place to start. When you start talking about principles, if you got money, you're trying, how do you do with it? It won't satisfy you. First of all, you go to God and you pray about it, okay? Okay, you want to diversify your investments. Okay, you probably, when you think about the word diversify in regards to finances, it's more of a, you probably don't think it's a biblical principle, but let's see what Solomon had to say. It says, divide your portion to 7 or even to 8, for you do not know what misfortune may occur on this earth, okay? Diversify. Instead of just having one nest, one egg, if something come around and take it all away, then you have nothing, then you start all over again. But if you diversify and you put it in 7 or 8 different things, and investment and stocks and bonds or whatever you put it in, okay, if one of them is bad, and I know the stock market is set up this way, that if you have it the right way and you have a smart investor, sometimes when one goes bad, there's another thing that's doing good. So you're not going to lose everything. Okay, one of them may go bad, but there's another one. When this is bad, this part is good. Okay, so it kind of works out that way. Ephesians 3:20 says, one who can provide exceedingly and abundantly above more than we can ask or think. When you go to God, God has everything. I call her Miss Sibley or Coach Sibley, but when she was talking about this morning, God has everything already. And if you go to him and you ask him, he, more than we can think or ask. That's pretty deep when you start thinking about that. Okay, that we can think of, he can give us to us. Okay? But it says gardeners understand this principle. Most gardeners will plant 2 to 3 seeds in each seed pot because they know all seeds germinate. But by having 2 or 3 seeds in there, the odds are much higher than having one. So when you plant, you don't just plant one seed and hopefully you're going to get something back. Okay, you put 2 or 3 or 4 in there, hoping, praying and hoping that it's going to be more so than that. And it says when it comes to investing, just imagine having all our retirement savings in a single stock. If that company behind the stock you're investing goes bankrupt, then you lose 100% of your investment, like I just said it there. It says, and that's the power of the wisdom of diversification at work. Secondly, 7 or 8 proportion is a lot different than 200. Okay, if you had 200 investment, okay, it says a death by 1,000 cut, and you can, sometimes you have a lot of bank account. If you just have 7 or 8, you can control. But when you have a lot of them out there, then you can lose also that way. And it gives a few examples out here is where to save, where to invest. It says, no worldly money advice can replace the plan of the one who can provide exceedingly above, just more than we think or ask. Okay? The third one, it's there's never a perfect time. Ecclesiastic 11:4, Solomon taught this. He who watches the wind will not sow, and he who looks at the cloud will not reap. Okay? So what does it say? Do your own work. Okay? Go on with your own life. Okay? When you're watching the cloud and when you're, what the script said, you're not doing anything. I know a lot of time, we say we want a job. I'll give an example. And you're saying, hey, I want a job. A job is not going to come fall in your lap. Okay? You have to do your work, get your outfit ready, get a resume ready. You have to do something. You can say it all day long, but the job's just not going to fall there. You have to go out and do something. But if you're out there just watching the clouds and whatever, it's not going to happen. So, there is not a perfect time. Okay? There are many times for every season, and a good steward, we have to be careful not to miss the season God has called and listen to. Okay? You'll often wait for the perfect time instead of letting the Lord stretch and bless you through a step of faith. And sometimes you have to go out on faith. There's a no quote I used to say is, most people would rather cling to an unsatisfactory way of life rather than change for something better in fear of getting something worse. And we do that. Most people would rather cling to an unsatisfactory way of life, rather than change for something better in fear of getting something worse. Because you can get something worse, okay? But there is no perfect time. And same thing when you're talking about God doesn't call the prepared, he prepared the call. Okay, you can't wait till you're perfect. There's no perfect person. So God will clean you up and make you righteous when you bring you in. But sometimes we think, well, when I get it right and when I get my life right, when I get it straight, then I'll go in. But there is no perfect time, okay? God, he doesn't call the perfect person, but he prepares, when you go there, he'll fix you up, okay? Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly light, who does not change like the shifting shadow. God doesn't change, okay? We see God in this scripture, Solomon talking about meaningless, like smoke. It's here one day, it's gone the next day. It's like a shadow. It's here and gone, okay? So it can't be that way, okay? There's no perfect time. Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptian and was powerful in speech and action. You start looking at Moses and, perfect timing when he was called to go speak. And he was saying, hey, don't choose me. I can't speak well. I stutter. He made all kinds of excuses. Okay, but if you look at the scripture, it says he was powerful in speech and action. Okay, what am I saying when I say this? Don't get caught up with people. People are going to tell you can't do it. People are going to tell you, what are you doing? That's too big for you. Okay, don't get caught up and start listening to people. Because people are going to tell you that, but there is no perfect time. Okay? Work smarter, not harder. Work smarter, not harder. Ecclesiastes 10:10, it said, if the axe is dull and its edge unsharpened, more strength is needed, but skill will bring success. Okay, there's all kinds of stories in the Bible. It talks about a man out there sawing a tree down. And it's taking him forever and ever. And he's out there, he's sweating. All come down his face. And somebody come up and say, what are you doing? Why is it taking so long? Okay, sometimes your axe may be dull or unsharpened. Okay, take the time out and go sharpen the axe. I know Stephen Covey talked about that, about sharpening your axe first. Okay, sometimes you need to stop, go sharpen the axe, go learn, go get educated about something, and then come back and do it. Okay, but sometimes, okay. Then Mark 2:27 said, then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not a man for the Sabbath. Okay, and as we talk about this right here, and I went a little bit further with this. And I say, when you talk about the Sabbath day, that was a day to rest. Okay, that's what I mean. When you sharpen your axe, you go get educated, you go back to school, whatever you need to do. But also when you start talking about the Sabbath day, I know we're supposed to rest, but even going off chart a little bit, and I was thinking about this coming in this morning, sometimes you may have to do some things on the Sabbath day. And I was thinking about that, God told us not to work, but say a Sunday morning, somebody's about to die. Are you not going to heal them because of the Sabbath day? Or if you're driving on, and I used to do this a lot when we was back in South Carolina, my wife and I, we would stop a lot to help people. If they had a flat tire, if they ran out of gas. Okay, nowadays things are a little bit dangerous. We don't do that as much, but we used to do that a lot back then. Okay, so but you got to stop every once in a while. And like a Sabbath day, if a person got a flat tire, that don't mean I'm not going to help them because it's a Sunday. Something, and if it's a holy act, then I think it's okay to do. But every once in a while, you got to stop. Okay. Then Hebrew 12 says, pace yourself and be patient and run the race with endurance. If you look at the whole Hebrew 12, it talked about running the race with endurance, not quitting, not giving up. Stick it to it, okay? When you want to quit and give up, you still keep going. But you got to, when you talking about work smarter, not hard, you got to be patient. It's not going to come overnight. Sometimes we want it to, but you got to stay with it, Usually when you want to quit, it's probably around the corner. So you got to stay with it, stick with it. Okay? Now, I'm almost done. I'm actually coming to a conclusion right now. It says, Ecclesiastes 12:13. Now, all has been heard. Here's the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandment. But this is the whole duty of man or woman or human. Okay? When you start talking, it said, and then I put down here, to spare future generation the bitterness of learning through their own experience that life is meaningless apart from God. Okay? What I mean when I say that, Solomon wrote Proverbs. He wrote Songs of Solomon. Okay, but when he wrote Ecclesiastic, he realized I had everything. I was wise beyond whatever. God gave me this wisdom. I was wealthy. You know, this young man had all the women he wanted. He was a businessman. He had vessels going out. He had the Queen of Sheba coming to visit. All kind of people was bringing money to him for his sage, his being wisdom, his knowledge. He had everything. But when he wrote Ecclesiastic, he realized none of that mean anything if it's not in the will of God. I can have all this, I can have all that, but it doesn't mean it's meaningless apart from God. So as you go through life and you have money and you have material wealth or whatever you have, if God is not part of it, you don't know how long it's going to last. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. Can you help me with the last one? It's not working for me. Okay, I'll go without it. Okay, it's actually a little story. I was going to finish with, I like to tell stories. It's about a story about every Easter time comes around. When you have an Easter basket, okay, and it's got the fake grass in there, and the candy and all that different stuff on the Easter basket. Okay, he talks about the young boy going into the Easter basket. He pulls out this chocolate Easter bunny. And he bites down and he bites the ear. And he looks inside and there's nothing inside of it. Okay? What am I saying? Sometimes life is that way. Okay? When you realize, hey, you bite down and you think there's candy and it's empty and it's hollow. It's futile. Okay? Sometimes in life we go through that. Okay? What's inside of us? Okay? Inside that candy, you know how sometimes you have that candy and the inside of it's real thin and there's nothing inside of it? That's what we go through in life. Okay, and we don't want that. We want to have some substance. We want to have, material there. We don't want to just be, okay? But that's my story in a nutshell. When you go through life, you can have all the gains in the world, but apart from God, that's my key thing. Apart from God, it means nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay. If you can please stand to your feet. I know it was kind of short and sweet, but I always say, be bold, be brief, be brilliant, be gone. But okay, if you can, I would love to see you come to the altar and let's pray about this. If you feel like you're that way and it's shallow and you